So you guys know just how much I love this show, and that's like my total opinion. I mean, some people have asked me like, are they sponsoring you? No, I mean, I would love it, but I actually just really love the family. And last night's episode, or this week's episode, depending on when you watch this, was fantastic. I think by far it was the best episode they've had. It's only been 6 episodes for this show ever, and there's 6 left, but I thought it was just fabulous, and I hope you did too. Basically, we start out with Doug. Now, Doug, if you didn't know, is the creepy kidnapper guy, and he's with his dog, and he's trying to figure out how much chloroform to give his dog to put him out for, a certain amount of time. To me, that scene was so creepy. And at first I thought he was actually trying to kill his dog. Thankfully that didn't happen. But we see later that he uses his dog to lure his victims. And all of that just creeps me completely out. So here's the deal. As we saw in the promo for last week, the FBI is hoping they can catch the kidnapper easily. Of course that doesn't happen, but they want to use Adam as bait to get this guy. And so the idea, and this is kind of Adam's idea, is to wear a plaid shirt that he knows Doug likes, and to, do like a press conference that's on the news, and he can say something about how he misses Bill's Burgers at the mall, and maybe this guy will show up there. So the person who worked in the bakery, the woman from last week, was really strange in this episode. I never got vibes that she kind of had a crush on Hank, but apparently she had a massive crush on him, and she comes to his house like looking for him, basically asking him out, and it gets a little bit weirder from there a little bit later. So the reporter, I think it's Bridie, is that how you say her name? She tells Allison like, hey, I got these DNA tests back, and guess what? Adam, this kid is not Adam. It's not your brother. And then Will is like, no, you're wrong, because my mom had an affair, and Adam has a different dad, and he doesn't know that. So at first I was like, wow, so this really is Adam. And I was confused because the writers from the show had been tweeting all last week that he was for sure not Adam. And I was like, what is going on here? But it all makes sense a little bit later in the show. So we learned a lot about Doug in this episode, or we saw a lot more about him and what he'd been up to in the past. And we see him working on a wooden box that's going to be really significant later, and in a very creepy way. What I'm wondering are a few things. I have a few questions, but I'll go ahead and ask you this one. About Adam's abduction, it really seemed like he was targeted, not just for the fact that he was a kid who was kind of by himself, the right place at the right time, but I really feel like Doug planned to get him specifically that day. So I'm wondering if this has anything to do with his mom, if there's a deeper meaning to this as far as her being in politics. What do you guys think about that? How do you think that he chooses his victims? Is it just by chance, or do you think he specifically went there that day to kidnap Adam Warren? So Doug does take the bait. He shows up at the mall. He, goes with his wife, who thinks she's there to buy baby clothes, and he wanders off to look down into the food court, and he sees Adam, and he gives him the world's creepiest stare. I have to give mad props to the actor who is playing Doug. As much as I hate his character, I think this guy's phenomenal at, the balance of playing like the world's best husband to the world's creepiest, most awful person in the world. But as soon as Adam sees Doug, he kind of freaks out and starts getting really sick and has stomach issues, and he's not really able to give a great description of him to the FBI. Thankfully, Doug drops his jacket in the trash. They get it out later. They're able to detect that he has a dog. Maybe this will help them get closer to him. But it was just, the whole thing was kind of weird to me. And what I'm kind of wondering is this person who we at this point in the show know as Adam, is he working with Doug? I mean, what is his deal? Is he a villain here? I can't really figure that out. Sometimes I think they're working together. I don't know if maybe he knew that, he was going to be at the mall. They had planned this. I really don't know what the deal is, although he seems very realistically getting sick at the sight of him and stuff. So it's just interesting. So we realized that the box that Doug was working on was the box that he would put Adam in after he was, knocked out and abducted, which is very creepy. We actually get to see him with Adam on the day he was abducted, and that he used his dog to lure him in, and all of that made me really sad because that kid was just so sweet, and it's just absolutely terrible. So Adam ends up having to get a surgical procedure because he has like an obstruction in his stomach region, and he gets a bouquet of flowers addressed to Ben, and his mom's like, no, this is not for him, it's a mix-up, but it was actually for him. We'll explain that in a little bit. So, okay, let's go back to Hank and the bakery woman. So Hank goes on a date with this woman, and she's like literally all about him to the point of madness. She's uber aggressive. Don't know what her deal is, but it seemed a little weird, and at first I was like, is she working for someone? Is she undercover? Because as creepy as he was in her store, I don't know why she would be desperate to get with him, but when she starts, hooking up with him, he flips out and he tells her to leave him alone, and he just can't deal with that kind of thing. So that whole thing was actually really weird. So something pretty interesting is that the detective, Nina, actually interviewed Doug 10 years ago because he was there like selling birdhouses or something, and he admitted that he had seen Adam, and Adam was looking at his birdhouses. I'm kind of wondering why he admitted to that and if that will like come back to haunt him later. But another thing is she sees his wife in that mall surveillance video. She realizes that she met her when she was interviewing people at that oil business because they were trying to figure out like who may have access to that area where Adam was being held captive. So one of the big revelations in this episode was that, this was huge. Adam had the surgery, and the doctor was explaining to his mom that, there was an issue around his appendix, but the real Adam had his taken out when he was 5. So now Claire knows for sure this is not her son. Another scene I thought was riveting was when she came back and he was like coming back to life, not life, but, waking up from the medication. And she kept saying, Adam, Adam, and he wasn't reacting to that. And I yelled at my TV. I was like, oh, it's Ben. And then, the light bulb went off that his name is actually Ben. And when she said Ben, of course, he opened his eyes and he reacted to that. So I don't know. Part of me is angry at this kid because I know that he was abused. I know he was because he had the scars and everything. But what is his deal? Why is he pretending to be someone else? It's just annoying to me. So we see Hank taking medication in order to make him a eunuch because basically I don't think he wants to have sexual desires toward young boys anymore. Obviously that got him in trouble in the past and got him arrested and labeled as a sex offender, and we know that he had like child porn on his computer, so he doesn't want to have sexual feelings towards anyone at this point. So here's the thing. We find out that Willa did something really, 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 really bad, but we don't know all the details, and I think we're going to find them out in next week's episode. But it kind of seemed like from the promo and from what went on near the end of this episode that she might have paid this kid who has been to pretend to be her son. Now, I think she did it because she's motivated by the fact that since her mom's running for office, people will sympathize with the fact that her son came back, and then her mom can talk about legislation to crack down on child abductors and to make it's safer for kids and for them to not get abducted. But I don't know what you think about that. Like, who do you think Ben is? What do you think his deal is? I had a comment, I think, from Brittany on my channel saying that she thinks that Ben is actually Doug's child, but his mom is someone different, not his current wife, and then maybe he was punishing him in some way by keeping him underground like that. I don't know. But what really gets me about this show is that when Ben escaped, or, we think he escaped, I don't know if he was set free or escaped, why did he not go looking for his family? It's very strange to me, so I'm just wondering, is he working for Doug and he's being told to do certain things? Because he tried to basically kill himself when he was in the car with his brother, and I kind of feel like he's doing things because he's being told to do things, and if he screws up, he's, thinks he's going to be killed. That's how I feel like, because like if he was kidnapped, wouldn't the first thing he'd do, would be like, I need to go find my family? Something's just not right about that. So we did learn that Adam was abducted after Ben, and Ben felt good about that because he always had someone there and he wasn't alone. But wow, this show is just so good, and I just love to hear your thoughts on anything I said before. Thumbs up if you were really into the show and you're hoping it gets renewed. I'm so hoping that it gets renewed for a second season. So if you're active on social media, I would tell people to watch, tell your actual friends and family to watch, because, and like I said, I'm not sponsored at all, but I want this show to be renewed because it's so good. And when a show's brand new, there's always a chance that it won't get renewed. And there's been shows that I've loved in the past that got killed after a first season, and it really bothered me. And I want this one to continue because I've got to know what happens. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Kelly TV. I have a live chat on this show every Monday at 6 p.m. That information is down below, and I would love to see you there because those are so much fun. So have a great week, guys. Bye.